Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Now, GS or Multistrada, that is the question. I'm on my last ride on the mighty Multistrada V4S. I'm taking it back to Ducati today, and on this ride I'm pondering, should I get one of these and ditch my GS? Well, stick around and stay tuned, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. Alright, so I've been riding the Multistrada V4S, the latest model, for the last couple of weeks, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It is an incredible bike. It's comfortable, it's powerful, it looks amazing, it handles beautifully, really nimble. It's got some, it's packed, laden with technology, you name it, it's got it. And I've loved my time on the bike, so inevitably, as I've been putting videos up, people have been asking the question, but would you get one over your GS? And that really was part of the reason why I was kind of keen to borrow the bike, was to just get a chance to have effectively a long-term test ride on it to see if I do prefer it to the GS. Now, I'm in no hurry to get rid of my GS. I've had it for 8 years, so it is, I suppose, getting long in the tooth, but there's nothing wrong with it. But you know what us bikers are like, we like new shiny things, don't we? And just the passing of time makes me wonder whether I should chop the big beamer in and go Italian for my touring bike of choice, because that's what I use this sort of adventure bike for, one-up touring. If I'm going out with the missus, then I'm fortunate enough to have the Honda Goldwing for that. Two-up, that bike is unbeatable. These bikes too are also great two-up, but primarily I use my adventure bikes for when I'm out on tour on my own, and just as a general workhorse. They're great all-rounders in the winter because they're excellent wind protection, weather protection, heated seats, heated grips, that sort of thing. They're great all-rounders because you've got panniers on them or hot top boxes. You can carry stuff, great for nipping down their shops or just carrying stuff. They're just brilliant all-rounders too. And in the case of the Ducati, not only is it a great all-rounder, but it also really does tick that box for sports bike replacement, because the thing is quick with this engine on here. 170 or 175 brake horsepower, absolutely loads of power. So that makes it fun too, to when you get to where you're going on your holidays on the bike, or indeed just for general riding. I mean, today here I am, scuddy day, stuck behind a van. You can just overtake with ease. I've really, as I say, thoroughly enjoyed the bike. There's nothing really serious about the bike that would put me off. There are a few things, or one thing in particular I'd change this screen, because on this road that I'm doing 58 miles an hour, I have got quite a bit of wind on my top of my head and around my shoulders, so touring screen required. I've said that before, that's an easy fix, aftermarket jobby. And also I'd probably spec up the top box rather than the panniers, because I just find those more convenient to carry stuff. Oh, hello, I've got a low fuel warning on, better get some fuel in a second. Which leads me to something I won't miss about the bike. It is thirsty. I have found that I've been filling this bike up more than I would do on the GS. Now that's not a problem, I'm not saying that from a sort of an economy point of view. Let's face it, these are expensive bikes. If you can't afford to buy the bike, you won't be worrying, or rather if you can afford to buy the bike, you're not going to be worried too much about fuel costs. I would put it out there. But I'm saying that more from a point of view of if you're on tour, stopping frequently and having to fuel up. Hello sir. You do tend to plug through the fuel quite quickly on this, and that would get old quite quickly. Here's another thing that annoys me. The indicator switch is too small, and you have to give it a real heavy push to make sure that the indicator is on. And even though I've been riding this bike a lot of late, I still have to double check every time that I have got the indicator on. And although it seems like a small point, that is a real annoyance. It would quickly get on my nerves. So although the Multistrada does all the important things well, so you know, comfort, go, looks, handling, all that stuff, feel good factor. It's a Ducati, so you've got that sort of je ne sais quoi, it just makes you feel good to ride it. There are things about it that would get on my nerves that don't get on my nerves on the GS. So that indicator is one. Occasionally, if you're not dead positive with the quick shifter, as you may have noticed on that road back there, it doesn't engage, so you get a bit of fork dive. Don't get that on the GS because of its front end. Some annoying things about the electronics on this. I'm not a massive fan of electronics on bikes, but all these sort of bikes have them, so you can't get away from it. But the fact that to turn the heated grips on, you have to press a button on the grip, and then you have to go into the menu to do it, and then it forgets that setting when you turn the bike off. that would quickly get old in this country. The fact that the integrated sat-nav works via your phone, and my phone won't actually fit in the phone holder where the charger lead is. Again, you can get around that, but it's just an annoyance. And then the bike, although much improved from a weight distribution point of view, the Multistradas that came before it, it is heavier to move around my garage than my GS is. It carries its weight still higher than the GS. It's a real haul to get off the stand. And I'm getting a bit wimpy in my old age. I've got dodgy shoulders, and I found it quite hard to move around, even though it's way improved on older Multistradas. So it depends how you prioritise these things, doesn't it, really? If you really love your performance, then this is the bike to get over the GS. If you want ease of living with, then I think probably the GS is still the one. Anyway, I'm going to get this back to Ducati now, pick up my GS, albeit it's an old one, just see how that feels like, because you know, I've kind of forgotten a bit how that feels like compared to this, having been riding this a lot of late, and then just doing my summing up and see what my thoughts are as to whether I should change to the Multistrada or not. Right, Multistrada dropped off immediately, back onto the trusty old GS. Oh, clutch is a little bit more sensitive on here. Right, now the seating position actually feels marginally a little bit more tucked up than I remember. How interesting. But yeah, very comfortable, and just as comfy as the Multistrada, to be honest. Immediately I recognised that extra grunt low down that this has got with the twin cylinder engine. You get used to. Right, sorry about that. GoPro packed up. Just had to put a new battery in. How annoying. Right, where were we? Yes, GS versus Multistrada. So it's interesting when you immediately jump off one bike and onto another, because that is obviously the best way to properly remember what they're both like. Now, this course is an old GS. It's a 2014 model year, so nowhere near as sophisticated as that Multistrada I was just on. And there's no doubt the Multistrada, on paper at least, is a better bike than this. And something I didn't film, but coming back round the back lanes just near Silverstone here just now, I had an absolute riot on that Multistrada. It was incredible. I mean, the power and the handling on that thing, absolutely amazing. But I have to say, jumping back on here, this feels nice. There's bags of grunt low down. Even the gearbox doesn't feel too bad. Yeah, this is all right, you know. Now I know this bike like the back of my hand. But she feels great. A bit slippery on that roundabout. So yeah, so what do we conclude then? Well, number one, if I was in the market for an adventure bike now, the top two choices would definitely be the Multistrada V4S and the BMW R1250 GS. Both amazing bikes. And I think it depends on what your background is, what you value most about a motorcycle. I think if you're the sort of person that's coming from a sports bike that loves your speed and power and handling and pace, but maybe they're just getting a little bit too uncomfortable for you, and you want to go sensible, then there is no doubt the Multistrada you're going to be very happy with, because that thing is just incredibly performant. It's a bit like an Italian mistress. Looks beautiful, amazing, performs amazingly, but it's maybe just a little bit harder to live with than the German equivalent. To stretch that metaphor a little too far. For me, even on this older GS, it's not that far behind the sort of riding I do, and this just doesn't have those annoyances that the that I found living with the Multistrada had. Things like the indicator, I know it sounds daft, but things like the indicator being fiddly, things like the heated grips resetting themselves. The one thing I will definitely miss riding the GS though is that brilliant blind spot mirror detection thingy. As I was going into Silverstone, I turned left off of a roundabout and there was a car behind me, and as I turned left with a car in my blind spot, that blind spot monitoring flashed to make itself even more conspicuous. It's brilliant. So that bit of technology together with the radar control cruise control is great. Now I imagine it won't be long until you start to see that on the BMWs too. They've already got the cruise control on the RT. I have heard some rumours, unsubstantiated I might add, that BMW are working on a new version of the GS, the GS 1300. Now I've not heard that from anybody, you know, official in the industry. These are just rumours. And if that is the case, I cannot believe they would bring a new bike out without having that sort of technology on. So I think for me, in terms of my decision, I'm going to wait. I don't need, this bike is perfectly good, there's nothing wrong with this, even though it's 8 years old. Having jumped straight off that Multistrada back onto here, this feels great to me. Yeah, it's lacking some of the leading edge electronics, I can live without those for the time being. But if a new GS comes along in say a year's time and it gets rave reviews and I ride it and I like it, then maybe I might think about replacing this with another GS. But for me, I don't think the Multistrada gives me enough extra over and above this. This is just so easy to live with, it's easy to move around because of the low weight on it. It hasn't got any of those little foibles that the Multistrada's got. It's not as thirsty. It's got a proper sat-nav that doesn't rely on your phone. Even the gearbox I can live with. But there's no doubt that is better on the Multistrada. So yeah, so that was kind of a long summary. My absolute summary is, if you value your sports bike riding over everything else, go for the Multistrada. If you just want the best all-rounder that's good at everything, then go for the GS. Don't take my word for it, ride them both, make your own mind up. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed that. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. I'm stuck behind what looks like the same van as I was behind at the beginning of the trip. And I've got to follow him all the way home now. Alright, look forward to speaking to you again soon. Till then, this has been the Mist and Fly. Cheerio. This is something you do a lot of with the Multistrada, sadly. Get used to it.